Hey everyone, Josh here with Royal Treatment. Today I'm going to tie a steelhead fly that I've been calling the Muppet Fly. My buddy Nigel, who I fish with in Alaska, kind of came up with that name. This is actually a king fly, but it's going to be scaled down to steelhead proportions. So I start with a orange pro tube. This is basically the 40-40 tube. I'm going to slide it into place, and I'm going to kind of jam it on there as far as I can. And it's hard to tell, but kind of the end of the needle is right in here somewhere. I'm going to do, this is a pink and orange fly. I'm going to do pink thread to get started. And I don't need to be all the way off the end, but I need it to be out there a ways, and that is maybe even too far out. We'll go like that. So maybe 3/8 of an inch from the end, something like that. And we will first tie in a little barbell eye, and this is a small pink double pupil, and I'm going to just start by doing the standard figure 8, do maybe like 5 or 6, kind of force it over to the side so now it sits nice and square, and I'm going to just really give it some wraps to help lock it into place. And then we'll even use a little drop of super glue to help get it locked in. But that's pretty nice, I think. And I like to get my eyes tied on first thing, so I can get a nice tie on the fly going here, so I have a good position when I start everything out. Once I get that tied in, I'm going to basically turn this thing over. When I fish it, I want it to ride barbell eye down. So now I'm going to be right back on top. I'm going to take this thread all the way back to where this junction is. And the nice thing about this 40-40 tube is that it does have the junction at the end. So the junction tube is built in, so it's 2 different diameters of tubing. And when I put in my dubbing and whatever material, this little curb is going to help it to flare up and kind of keep it spread up. So I'm going to do a dubbing loop. This is my Aquafly's dubbing twister. It's pretty nice and heavy. Has a really closed up gap on that dubbing hook part of it. And it seems to work really good for me. I've been enjoying it quite a bit. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of dubbing. This is the Solar Synthetic series. This one is the Glitz dubbing, which has these really long fibers in it. And they call this color Evil Magenta, but it's a really cool, super pink color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start straightening out the fibers here, kind of aligning them, if you will. And if you do this a lot, you're going to get fibers all over the place. The stuff just kind of falls out, and you can just kind of pick it right back up and put it into that bundle. And what I'm going to do with this, it's really long, I'm going to take it and I'm just going to cut it right in half. Right there. And then fold it over. So now I have basically twice as much. I'm just going to put this in the dubbing loop. If you want to wax your dubbing loop, you certainly can. I'm not too worried about it for this. So maybe like that. And I just want to have a little bit of material flaring out the back there for this first part. So something just like that. And this is going to give us basically like 4 wraps, maybe. And I'm going to just kind of do them right on top of another right at the edge there. And I'm kind of going to X wrap a little bit, just like that. So now once I get this locked in, a couple 3-4 wraps to hold it down. Trim that. I'm just going to take my bodkin and pick this so now it kind of breaks free and it'll kind of stand up all on its own because of that little curb space, if you will. So one of the things that I felt when I was tying these for Alaskas, we're tying them really big for kings, is that I wanted it to be something that was easy to cast and didn't absorb a lot of water. So I put a hank of craft fur in it for the tail. And so what I'm going to do is trim out a pretty thick piece. I want to get as much of that under fur pulled out as possible. So kind of just like that. And if I'm feeling extra frisky, I can take my little comb. And now what I'm gonna do is probably align these tips just a little bit. So I'll just grab the longest ones, pull them out, and then just lay them right on top like that. And so it still has a lot of taper to it, but now it's gonna be a little more even. I'm gonna trim these butts up. So maybe something like that. And maybe I'll thin this out just a touch. I don't need this tail to be really thick. Yeah, maybe like that, looks good. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna turn this around and reverse tie it in. And I wanna get really short on those butts. Do a pinch wrap, like so. And then check to make sure it didn't roll too far down, so it's not closing over the whole tube. Kind of spread it out a little bit, and then just take this and start kind of helping it to lay back on its own, just like that. And we're not going to tie over. We're going to just start putting some wraps right in front of it, kind of building up a thread dam. This is kind of that reverse tie, hollow tie style. And you can see now it's kind of wedged up, but still going back. So that looks pretty nice. And now you're not going to have that big bump in there. So this is flat diamond braid. This actually is also a Solar Synthetics, and this is called Evil Magenta as well. So it's kind of the matched up color. And I'm gonna tie it in down the length of the side of it. Kind of like that. And I'm gonna finish my body, again, maybe 3/8 of an inch from the end. And this is going to give me a nice segmentation. I'm gonna have the body finished so I have a big enough gap that I can get my next couple of materials in without crowding and building up too big of a head. So somewhere maybe in there. Might be too tight, but that's all right. We don't want to put too much material in this. This is supposed to be a easy casting, kind of a thin bodied fly. I think it looks pretty nice so far. Easy, quick and easy. So we're going to do another little dubbing loop of exactly the same thing we did before. So this is the flat waxed 140 Danville. Is a nice, pretty robust. I'm going to do a loop that's maybe 4 or 5 inches for the overall loop length. And material wise, I'm not going to make it super dense and thick. I'm not looking for a really ultra thick piece of dubbing here. I'm not looking to make this fly ultra have a huge thick profile. I don't need the material to stand up on end. I want it to be flowy and have some movement and just look good. So I'm going to align as much of those fibers as possible, just like I did before. I'm going to kind of fold it over in half and then cut it in half. So now I've kind of doubled it. So now I have a nice clump of materials that are maybe an inch to an inch and a half long, and some are going to be longer than that. And you can, like I said, you can use wax here if you want. I'm not going to, but it doesn't hurt. Lay it in there, and now I'm going to just spread it out by hand. And just get a nice spread on it. Drape it over your finger. Give it a good spin. Maybe another one. Don't spin it so much that it breaks, that the thread breaks. So like that, and maybe one more. Let her dangle. Yeah, that's probably looks really good. And this is going to add some flash and a little bit of bulk and help prop up the next material. So I'm going to start wrapping, fold this back, and just keep folding it back like you're palmering a hackle. Give it a little bit of this kind of X so it doesn't come apart like that. And last one right there. Lock it down, and then once I get this all locked down, it doesn't look like much right now, but once I kind of pick at it a little bit, it's going to break a lot of this free, hopefully. And it should kind of start to stand up. Sometimes you have to work out a little more than you want, which is fine. Maybe there. Yeah. Little piece of Marabou. This isn't gonna, you're not doing a thick collar of Marabou. And this is like bubblegum pink maybe. So you can see I took off the majority of it. It's still flexible. I could have kept more on there, but I just want a few wraps here to add a little bit of more color and a little pink. This fly is really pink and orange, so I need a little more pink in there. And I'm just going to tie it in by the tip. Fold it back. Get it locked in well there. And 2-3 wraps maximum. One. So there's one whole wrap. There's 2. Just keep folding it back. And I think that looks pretty good. That's my 3rd wrap. Do we want the whole thing? Yeah, well, that's 4 or 3.5 really. Okay. Get that stem locked in. I think that looks nice. Give that a little trim up. Now I'm going to give it a little more flash, crinkle mirror flash, and what I like to do is grab 2 strands. This is pink crystal mirror flash. 2 strands, pull it off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap those strands around the thread, and then I'm going to just slide it right up into place where I want it, kind of off to the side. Lock it down there. And it doesn't take a lot to wrap that into place and get it locked down. A couple 3 thread wraps. Same deal, 2 more pieces. I'm going to wrap them around the thread. Come right up into exactly where I want them. So right off to the side. Looks nice. Couple, like I said, 2-3 wraps, and if I want to pull these out to the side a little bit, easy. So one last little step, I'm going to add just a little bit more craft fur in the front. Like I said, this fly is pink and orange, so if you don't have enough orange in it, is not gonna look quite right. Although you could do this any color you want. If you wanted to leave out the extra orange, you certainly could. So get your brush, get all that last little bit of underfur out of there. And this uneven is going to be okay like that. Maybe even thin it down just a little bit more. And this isn't supposed to be a real bulky fly. Yeah, like that. And again, reverse tie. So you're going to trim the ends nice and square. Pinch it. Rotate it around. And just get a nice and short grip on that base. Do your pinch wrap, just like so. Give it a nice lockdown. Spread it out a little bit. And you just want to give a couple wraps. There it is. To help lock it in place so it's not gonna stick. It can be up, but it's not sticking forward, and as it gets wet, it's gonna just lay down and kind of have that shouldery type look. If you want it to stay down a little bit more, don't lock it down over, just build up a thread dam like that. I think that looks really nice. Little flash, little pink and orange. So this fly is very easy to cast, pretty easy to tie, hasn't taken us very long, has some cool materials, is very lifelike in the water, has a lot of movement with that craft fur. I'm going to take a little UV solar res to lock the thread down. Yeah, there it is. Hit it with this torch. And that's the Solar Res Bone Dry, but the Loon Flow works really well also. So now I'm going to slide this off of there. Got some petting. I'm going to maybe cut about 1/8 of an inch up from my thread wraps. And you can see I just hold this vertically, touch the lighter down to it, and it rolls over and it still keeps that hole open. There we go. So this is really, this should be called Nigel's Muppet, but it's my pink Muppet fly. I use it for steelhead, I use it for kings. This one obviously pink and orange, but chartreuse and green, chartreuse and Kelly green work really good. Chartreuse and pink work good for kings. Black and blue works good. This thing is just versatile and easy. Has a very thin profile and silhouette. You can see right through it. This thing just breathes in the water. It looks really good. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you tie it, and I hope you catch a steelhead on it. Thanks.